Good day, everyone. Welcome to my weekly live streaming about the Uno platform and developing on the Uno platform and using it and going into details if need be. So for the past few weeks, I've been developing an application that uses the Uno platform and a few other additional components like SkiaSharp, Roslyn, the Monaco Editor that you can see here, all through an application that I'm calling the Uno SkiaSharp Fiddle, which is a WebAssembly clone of the small SkiaSharp Fiddle application that Matthew Leibowitz from Skia has been developing for a while. That was for WPF. So the idea here is to have that application that runs and takes some C# code here and compiles it into an assembly that's run inside of your browser completely locally, and then runs it inside and renders its content here on the inside of the browser. So again, we've been developing that for the past few weeks. It's deployed on Azure Static Web Apps, so you can take that URL here and take a look by yourself, and you test it out on your side and see what happens. So it's deployed automatically when PRs and pushes to master are done on that repo. So it gives you an idea of what that does. So we can basically change a few things, like go into different samples here, and when I click the compile button, it goes and compiles that code, and then that line or that function is executed every time there is a need to change, like resizing or things like that. So we can see here that if I change again for the sweep gradient, or let's say change this to another value, we can see, well, that one maybe not the best one, but let's see here, it moves the center to a different location, so it recompiles the code every time there's a change locally. So last week the idea was to add that Monaco Editor. So Monaco Editor is based off of the code that has been developed by the XAML Llama, which is a component that's been available for a while. It's a UWP Monaco, if I remember correctly. It's Michael Hawker that developed that, and we've ported that component over to Uno, so that it can be integrated into a WebAssembly application that you can see here. So it offers quite a few things, like no syntax highlighting and the ability to have pop-ups and everything that pretty much Visual Studio Code is able to provide by default. So it's a pretty nice editor, and it's way better than what we had originally in this application a few weeks ago, which was just a text block. So now we have a pretty nice editor. Hey Richard, thanks for the cheers. Always nice to see. So what we're going to try to do today is determine what's happening with let's say when we're making an error there and that the program doesn't compile. So let's say if I do this, skPoint is able to provide a 2D coordinates that are used by the shader here. So if I make a compilation error because that type doesn't exist, or it's not valid syntax, if I click compile, then what I can see here is that I have what the Roslyn compiler is providing me. So I can see here that an expression requires an argument. All the exceptions that are all the compilation errors that can happen when you're making a syntax error here. So the interesting here is that I made that mistake in the code, and then it's highlighted. The whole line's highlighted. If I make another one, if I click compile again, then I'll get a few additional errors that are going to be highlighted properly. Now, the interesting thing is that last week when I made the change, what's supposed to happen is that I was providing the location of the error, because Roslyn is providing a full location for the error, and Monaco is able to handle that. So what we're going to take a look at is why that full line is marked and not just the location that causes some issue. Also, there were supposed to be some kind of a pop-up or image or something that was supposed to overflow or to be displayed on top, and it's not there. So let's go take a look at that. So if we go back to that code, the the full code was in the main page, where we're probably gonna move that away into a different set of classes, and probably inside of a controller or something like that, because it's just not the best way to develop an application. But the idea is that you have your application that has an uncompiled event handler that compiles the code, takes the source that comes from the editor, provides it to the compiler, which returns an assembly. And then if there are no errors, then we get a class that's named program. We search for a method that's called paint, and it must have the right signature, which is a Skia refresh handler. So it matches a surface width and height here, and then we get a delegate that is called every time we need to paint the surface, which is when there's a size change or something like that, or when we want to refresh and calling explicitly refresh. So the interesting thing here is that we should be having, we can see here that when there's something to display at the bottom, we can display the errors that are provided by the compilation. So we can see here the compiler, we have a compilation result, and we have a diagnostic property. Yeah, tabs and spaces. Well, it's not. Where did you see tabs and spaces? Is it in the XAML? Yeah. Now I probably gonna have to change that somewhere in the. There's no editor config at the top. So yeah, it shows up pretty heavily. Probably, yeah, I'm pretty sure your eyes are hurting. So we're going to take a look at those diagnostics. So what Rosling is providing us is a location and a line span, and it's supposed to be giving us a line position. So we're pushing this for 1. For some reason, for a good reason, but the lines are 1 based and not 0 based for Monaco. So we had to push that one. But there's a start line position character here, and start. Oh, there you go. That may be the issue. So there's the end. That's not the right one. So that's one issue that may need to be fixed already. So another thing is we got the glyph icon that should be shown properly, but is no. There's also the is whole line that may be something to look out for. So that's the highlight. So maybe we can change that and not highlight the whole thing. Let's see what that does. So I copied that over from the community toolkit, and so that code, if you want to see a bigger version of that one, it's coming from the Windows Community Toolkit, where they have the ability to show the samples that are displayed in the application it allows you to change the XAML there from the application directly, and Michael has been adding this as the editor there. So it's the code is taken from there. That's where it was used originally. So it was using start line and end line because there was no begin character and end character. But now we do have that. So let's take a look at what we can change in Visual Studio to get that running. So if we build that again, I'm just going to make sure that we have we're in debug first. And also that we have that new feature that was added a while back, which is a feature that allows to skip the expensive steps of the WebAssembly linker. So let's take a look at that one. So if you take a look at this, it's in the Bootstrapper at the root. And the idea is that when you're building an application with WebAssembly, there's multiple passes. So the first time there's the C# compiler that builds the whole thing, and then there's the AOT compiler if you're running AOT or not. If there's an interpreter, there's nothing else to do, and then there's a step that takes, especially for this application, there's the Skia native binary that needs to be linked into the .NET runtime so that it works. That's the way it's built for now. But the problem is that when you merge two sets of native code binaries like that, there's a step that's called link time optimization that's done by LLVM. And the problem is that by default, and I didn't know better at the time, there's that optimization is using actually the maximum possible optimization, and it takes a while to build. So when we're talking a while, we were saying for an application, that for a large application, we're talking when the optimizations, when the linker optimization is enabled, so it does all the things that it can do. It can take, let's say, an hour and a half to build and to finish the compilation properly. And when it's disabled, around 8 to 10 minutes. So depending on the types of optimization that need to be made. So we're talking NAOT module, not just an interpreter module with native dependencies. But still, it's a big difference between an hour and a half and just going back to around 10 minutes. So there's an option that's called link, so EMCC link optimization, and that optimization allows to disable what Emscripten is trying to do to make the application go faster. It's not very important in debug, and we don't want to spend that time waiting for the compiler to do its work, because we just want to debug the application. So let's try this and see. Oh, I wanted to take a look at the build time. So if you've been following for the past weeks, you can see that I'm using the build logging tooling that comes from Microsoft. It allows you to see all the details of the build, and so you don't have to spend that much time reading here because the information is not structured here, but the build logging tool details. So it's not giving you the details during the compilation, it gives you at the end, but when there's something that doesn't work properly, you can see all the details in a hierarchical manner. So it's pretty useful. So it's in the, if you want to download this, it's MS Build Log Viewer. So it's something that you can, when the build is done, you can just right click on this and get the build output in the right way. So it still takes some time, and I want to see, so the link optimization, I still don't see, oh, the linker is still running. So, okay, so that's one of the things that we can take a look at as well. I'm not sure if we need the linker again for this one, so we'll take a look afterwards. Okay, so I have some code here, and now if I so I compile it once, so it downloads the binaries if needed for the SDK, and then if we make an error here, what do we see? Oh, wow. Okay, so that's nice. So interestingly, you can see that there's also an offset. Oh, and there's the hovering that works as well. Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay, so the full line wasn't showing anything up, but if you allow it to provide the specific locations, then it shows up the errors as the pop-up. So that's pretty cool. So if we go back here, so that means that we have to also move the characters by 1. So it aligns properly. That's pretty good. And then we're going to take a look at that one as well afterwards. So the other optimization that we can make is to disable the linker. I want to make sure that I want to determine if we can actually do that. Sometimes we can't because some of the libraries are not made to are not built properly to have the linker being disabled. So we're going to check this out if it actually does work. So let's go back to Visual Studio and in debug mode. So we're going to take the debug section here and we're going to be disabling the linker and see if it builds faster. So there's still an open issue on the .NET runtime side for which the linker is taking a bit of time to build properly, or to finish properly. And one of the reasons it does that is that it needs to scan all the methods to determine something inside. And oh, see, that's a very large difference. So if the linker is enabled, and so let's see if it still works. It's probably going to be still working. Let's see. Yes, it still works. Oh, that's good. So you can see here that disabling the linker, especially when the application is building with .NET 5, it takes a very significant amount of time. And the bigger the application, the longer it takes. And it's not linear. Well, at least it doesn't seem to be linear. So take note of this. I'm probably going to change the sample app by default to I don't know. So there's probably a question for you guys if you're listening, if you're listening to this, and you're probably gonna have. I'm probably sure actually Morten that Morten has an opinion on that, but uh, I personally don't want to see the linker disabled by default, even in debug. So for two reasons. The first one is that the linker is mandatory if you want to do, well, actually mandatory. It's not mandatory, but if you don't use it, then your build time is going to blow up or to a point where it doesn't work. You don't have opinions. That I'm not sure. But the question is, do you want the linker disabled or enabled by default? I personally think that the linker should be enabled by default because it shows the error the errors ahead of time, and that you don't spend too much time in the end when the application is built in release and then most probably has passed through the CI, and then your QA may find the errors at the end because you haven't tested in release. So yeah, I prefer it enabled, except in that case where the linker is way too long to run. Well, it's compiling time errors. The idea is when you run your application in debug, then you may have issues. Let's say if you're doing bindings and then fields are removed because of the linker, then you're going to see it even running in debug. So if you're not running in release and the linker is enabled only in release, then you may have that kind of trouble. So yeah, it's not really cheating. The cheating about the linker is that if you're doing something very, let's say, if you're importing some code that's not supposed to be there, especially if you're mixing up, frameworks and things like that, that happens in many cases. The linker will fail to work because it will try to find code that may not exist. So it tries to, but it actually, you were kidding, but it's actually true. It's something that if you're enabling it ahead of time, then you're going to be finding some kind of issues with the linker. But especially that happens quite a bit for WebAssembly applications, especially when you're importing code that let's say takes references to WPF. If you're trying to build that, then it kind of try to find presentation core DLL, and then it will fail because it won't find it. So that's the kind of errors that the linker will try to find out. So that's it. So it builds a lot faster, so that's good for the stream. You don't have to wait for me to look at the code while it builds. So the other one that we need to look at now is the glyph icon. So I'm not sure exactly what that one is supposed to show. So we're going to be removing the whole line again and see what that one does. So there's an error icon style that's looking at for a file that's supposed to be named error.png. So we're probably going to have to use assets. So we have a folder that's called assets here. So we're going to name it the same. And I'm going to go and pick up the community toolkit's error file. So we're going to go to file, is there an error.png? There you go. Wow, that's a red line. Okay, let's see if that one does the trick. So, well, that's kind of a download. Save, and we're gonna pick that one up and put that into the application to see if that works properly. So let's put this into assets, but into an icons folder. Icons, and move that there. Okay. And then we're going to take a look at what the debug console is providing as error messages because it may not find the file properly. So let's do that again. So we take a look at the build time. We get the build that worked at the first time in 74 seconds, and then it's the second one with the linker disabled was 16 seconds. It's probably even faster now. 14 seconds. That's pretty good. Okay, so if I make an error, what happens now? Okay, surface is not used as the right thing. So it doesn't look like it's showing anything. So we may have some problem with the file there. It's probably not having the right. Yeah, okay. So for a file here to be as part of the app and deployed as part of the app, it needs to be set to content. Otherwise, it won't be copied over to the output. And probably here, if we search for error.png, so we have the error.png here, but it's probably an error somewhere. Well, it's not been recorded there yet, so we won't see it. But let's build the application again and see if that shows up properly. So that's pretty nice. We can probably do some funky things with CSS there to have something that looks a bit better. So another thing that that is part of Monaco is the fact that we can do IntelliSense. And I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do some IntelliSense because it's actually quite complex to do that one. I mean, that's what OmniSharp is doing. But we can probably take a look at some APIs to see if we can do something here. Like probably hovering over elements to have some kind of information, like because we have a model here that provides us what this is. So we may be able to provide some content there. So it built properly, and if I okay, I see. Okay, so the glyph is about showing something on the side here. That's pretty nice. Okay, that looks pretty cool. So if I do something like that, so let's say if I create a variable that I'm not using, it's supposed to show some warnings. Okay, so warnings are shown as errors. That's not good. So we're probably going to have to do something about that, because it's still interesting to know the warnings there. Okay, that's good. So you should be able to determine that. So diagnostic severity is above or equal to warning. So that's why it's happening. So I don't know if it's actually useful to have the warnings showing up there. Maybe. But okay, so that's pretty nice. So now let's take a look at yes. Well, that's probably something that we can change there, because it's something that we have in the compiler here. So we can change quite a few things here when building an application. So that's the default compilation, the compilation settings here. But we probably change that compilation warning as error. I think there's a property for that one. I think it's with options, and we can do compilation options. Is there a dot there? No, there's no dot, but probably some new warning level. Okay, and it's not that, so there's probably another one there. That's all the options there. Optimization level, report suppressed diagnostics, warning level. Maybe it's in there. Okay, maybe there's something else there. Let's see. There's optimization level. Output kind. I would have thought it was provided here, but there's probably something else that we need to do that needs to be changed somewhere else. Report diagnostics. Oh, that's compilation up. Yeah, it should be supposed to be that one. Warning level. Oh, that's an integer. Okay, so that's probably not that useful. It's probably somewhere else to provide that one. I don't know where that is. Okay. So there's module name, optimization, overflow checks, suppress diagnostics. Yeah, it's probably hidden somewhere else. Okay, I don't know where that is. There's so many options there. So okay, let's skip that one for now. So that's where we can alter the yeah, maybe that could be. Let's try that. Warning level is 0. What does it say? Warning level is not accessible, so there's probably somewhere else to change, something else to change there. It's a set only. Is it set only? Yeah, it's protected set, so it's probably something with compilation options. Oh, we have to take the options and do with options there. So options with. Okay, so with warning. No, with it doesn't say warning level there. It's probably something else. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so we can't change the warning level there. Oh, okay. So that's something that we can't set there. It's probably part of something else. So there's so many APIs in Roslyn, and you're trying to find the exact way where you can set something up is kind of digging in many ways. Okay, so let's skip that one for now. Okay, so we got our compilation here. It works properly. So let's try to do something with maybe show something with the decoration. So we have the decoration. So there's two things. Either we try to do some pre-parsing, so we get the compilation result, and then we take a look at the semantic model to determine what to set. Or so when we get the compilation result, we have a few things like the assembly. We don't have the compilation. We could probably return that one. So the first thing we may want to know is, can we detect the position of the mouse? Because we may not want to put all the details that we're seeing. Just ask. We want the Monaco editor to tell us where am I and what's at that location, and give me the details about. So Monaco asks us what's at that location, and we provide it through the compilation that was available. So maybe we can determine that. So on the Monaco editor itself, there's probably something that we can take a look at to get some events. I don't know if we had that. So we have so in the events, we have property handler, property change, open link requested, key down. Okay, so maybe we don't have that. There's probably something that may have been raised at some point. I don't know if that's something that was provided as part of the original Monaco editor. Let's take a look. So we have the Monaco editor here, markdown strings. So there's probably something else. Monaco code editor. There it is. Oh, events. We got events. So what kind of events do we have here? So there's internal exception, open link. Okay, so it's the same thing as we had originally. So we don't have the events to provide all the content to do the IntelliSense there. So maybe not this time. So probably something that we may report to Michael if there's something there, or try to implement it ourselves at some point, but maybe not for now. Okay, so we got all this right. So one thing that we could do is here there's something that's missing. I mean, we should be able to have a splitter that allows us to move up and down and not just use the splitting that I had originally. So, oh, you found it. Let's see. You found it, Morten. So, okay, so let's see there in the compilation. If I have SkiaSharp compilation options, it doesn't seem that the compilation option was something that was that could be constructed. So it's an abstract class. It has to be something with options. And yeah. Oh. SkiaSharp compilation options. Ah, that's right. Okay, that's why. Okay, so it's there. So we can use that and set the warning level there. Okay. So warning level, and it's going to be a, it's that with options. So it's compilation with options, and we need to update the compilation, otherwise it won't do anything. One thing that's interesting is that the Roslyn team did some analyzers. So if you're doing with options there, and you're not using the compilation to override it, to change the compilation that you're manipulating, you're going to see compilation is immutable. And with options, won't do anything if you assign it to something else. So we need to update that. And here, Sharp compilation option doesn't take only one argument, so it had the output kind. So maybe it didn't. So it didn't do anything. Okay, so maybe it's something else at another location. Yeah, it needs to be rebuilt completely from this. Yeah, I'm not sure why. So the options there are not the ones from they're not C# options, they're just compilation options. So maybe there's a way to type it somewhere else, but you know, that's not too bad. You know, so many ways to do things with Browsins. That's pretty cool. So if you like digging into APIs, so that one is a good one. Maybe a cast, I don't know. Yeah, we could try cast. I mean, I guess it would be castable. So let's see. Actually, if we search for, if we go in the Roslyn GitHub, we can find there. It's probably going to be best to find it that way. Let's see. Is there some code that uses it for some reason? Options, new options, C# options. They're casting it pretty much. Yeah, it looks like it's a good way to do it. Yeah, casting it is yeah, there it's cast. Okay, let's try to cast it somewhere. Okay, so if we have compilation options here, it's going to be C# compilation. It's still compilation options. The problem is that we have the options there, but the problem is that if we do with options, it's going to be returning an option, so we can't set that one. Oh, we have to set it. Okay, so we have to set it with options first. So we do that, then we do compilation. Oh, it feels like there's probably another way to do that. Okay, so compilation options, and then there's probably a way to set that somewhere else. Yeah, it's probably not that bad. Well, I mean, there's probably a way to do it properly. It's all those kinds of APIs that are made by that are immutable. You have to just unwrap everything to be able to set it at some point. So is there a width there? Oh no, there's a width. There's a width optimization level with warning level, maybe. It would warning level has to be provided there. Nope. No, it's not there. So it's something that needs to be set from the top, but it's protected set, so we can't change it there. So it needs to be set by options, in other words. Yeah, there's I'm missing parenthesis, but the thing is that even if I'm setting it that way, you get that one there. So let's say if I'm casting the options there, is there with warning level? Ah, warning level there. Okay, sorry if I was effectively missing the parentheses there. So compilation option with the warning level 0. And there it is. Okay, so that's better. So we can change that. So yeah, not particularly a good experience. So we have to upcast the, yeah, oof, not good. Not good. Okay, so let's take a look at what that does. Is there documentation there? Nope, no documentation on that one either. So let's see. So if I make something, an error like that, and compile, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't say anything at all. Yeah, well, who needs doc with IntelliSense? The problem is, even with IntelliSense, you don't know exactly what that does. it's an integer. So if warning level is 0, it doesn't say anything at all. So it may still be useful. Let's see. Let's say if we put it to 5, they say that they have a, let's put it bigger. They're not saying let's say if we search warning as error like that, no. There's probably another way to say that. It's warning as error. Okay, so if I do the same thing. Yeah, it's still a warning. Okay. Warnings as error. Warnings as error is not returning. So yeah, it's still only in the code. So it may be something that's mapped to it's mapped via the MS build task, so we can't see it right away. So but anyways, okay, so that's still a good one. You can still see what's happening there. I see Matthew is here. So lots of Skia there. So we're gonna add the splitter bars here. So we're gonna add the Windows Community Toolkit as part of the dependencies. So now we have the latest version of the Community Toolkit that can be used. So it's even have the 7.1 starting something, but we're gonna add the it's the controls one, which is here. And we're gonna just use the, well, let's use the 7.1. Well, yeah, I'm not sure I want to buy followers. Yeah, that's pretty. Buying followers is not particularly interesting there. Okay, so we got a community toolkit integrated. So one piece that we can use is the splitter control. You can say infamous, exactly. Exactly. Okay, so we got the grid splitter control. So it works that way. So we get to put items inside. And so I'm try it in the sample. Oh, okay, so it opens up the community toolkit directly. Actually, it's I haven't installed that application. I don't think it does. No, okay. It's at store. Wow, okay. Removing the it's interesting that games show up first. I've used Windows Community and it uses something else instead. Even Windows Community Toolkit is not the first one. It's the terminal that happens to be first. Okay, so what we're trying to do here is have the grid splitter and have multiple items that are split between all this. So we can find different elements that need to be wrapped around. So we have different elements that need to be put inside of the grid. So we're probably going to be just wrapping the elements inside the content. So let's take a look at what that does. So in the application here, I updated my Visual Studio to the latest builds, and it's still doing this. I thought it was supposed to be fixed, but it's not. Maybe it's the 0.4 that was provided there. Okay, so each individual item needs to be inside of a splitter. So I want to have a split. So let's see. I need to split vertically for 2 elements here. So is there something that needs to be changed based on alignment for resize direction? Okay, so based. Okay, so let's do it for the bottom one first. So that one is placed. Oh, So I have to put the community toolkit at the top. Oop. Well, it's going to be tabbed this time. So community toolkit at the top, and then we're going to be using the grid splitter here for the bottom element and top element. So it's going to be yeah, it's going to be that one. So we're going to put Rhine resizer here. Okay. So we got one resize here. I probably paste something the wrong way. Okay. So I'm not using 1610 here. That's why it's giving a few things here, you know, the squigglies, but it's going to go away with the 1610. So we got a scroll viewer here. So it uses the same row here. Oop. So I'm using the row instead. So we're going to put it here. That I don't know if it's going to be useful yet. So we're going to try to find that one out afterwards. And we're going to put a grid splitter here at the top. Oop. Cut a bit too much. So grid splitter at the top element. And we're probably going to have to put something else there. No, I'm not high enough in the grid. So that's that grid. Oh. So I'm probably going to have to split it in two grids because that one is not going to do the right thing. So I have to wrap so the way it needs to be done is that one is going to be a grid splitter. And then that one and the whole section completely is going to be having a second one. So we're going to have to put that one inside of its own grid, and that one and the whole section it's in its own grid as well. So that's two grids to split. So we're going to change that. So we got the columns that are going to be for just the one that's inside. So we're going to add an additional grid here. So that's one grid here. So that's one grid here, and we're going to add one more at the top so that we can have the actual columns. Jeez, what's... Okay. And then it's the column definitions that they're now supposed to be at the right location, which is going to be at that location. So let's see if that works better. I don't know what the designer is doing, but it's moving the selection all over the place. Maybe if it's in UWP, it's going to work better. Not really. Okay. Okay, so that's 2. So let's see what that does. So it's not row 0, it's row 0. Let's see if that splits properly. Okay, so I probably have removed a bit too much there. Source does not exist. Okay, so why does source does not exist? Source is here. Probably have another compilation error that probably bothers me here. So that's interesting because it's supposed to be giving this, but it may be because it's inside of the splitter. Okay, so one of the things that we can take a look at is what is generated for that part, because I don't know exactly why the compilation is giving all those errors. So especially that one, it means that the source element is not available. Uno does not yet support the row definitions with that, but we're going to be adding that soon. The thing is that the UWP does not support it, and we're still supporting UWP. So if people try to add that, then that's going to be causing some trouble. But we're going to be enabling that specifically for WinUI. Yes, it's a very nice addition, so that we don't have to just do that expanded version of the column definitions. We're actually starting to do some porting of the original grid code. The grid component, the grid control is not the WinUI one, the original one, the original WinUI one. So now we're going to be trying to do that, and it's probably going to come as a result. The parsing is going to be the same. It's going to be interesting. So now we could take a look at what the generator is doing. So there's here a generator that's part of the analyzers, and there's that new feature that the Microsoft team has added that gives us what's been generated by the generators here. So we got the Uno source generators that are available, and there's probably one that goes for the main page.xaml. And we can see here what's inside the main page. So is the control generated properly? So we got the row definition here with a row splitter that's been generated. There's another splitter. Okay, so it looks like there's no content for some reason. So that may be something that Uno does not understand, which is quite curious, because the elements are not there at all. So it may be something that I need to do with the grid splitter element. So let's try to do that. Maybe for some reason we're not having the right properties there. Why is it going up that way? That's pretty annoying. Probably going to be switching to VS 1610 just because the designer experience is a little bit better, even if it's in debug. Okay, so let's Control S, and the good thing is that because it's source generators, and the file is just is updated right away. So we get the splitter here, and we have some content element. So there's no element. Okay, so that would be an interesting bug of Uno for some reason. Otherwise, the splitter would have been there. It's not there at all. So the splitter is here, but doesn't have any content. That means that there's something else that we need to look out for. Okay, so let's go take a look at the grid splitter control itself to see what's inside. So one of the things that I wish was available is that we still don't have the IntelliSense in those files. So that means that if you can't, F12 or go to definition for a specific symbol that's available in that file, that's something that Uno does. If we switch to the other Uno generators that don't use Roslyn as part of the integrated pipeline, but we're gonna try to find out that grid splitter something, or maybe I was missing something in the documentation there. So there's this page, the splitter, there's the element there that you saw, but other than that, it should have been doing the right thing, and it's not. So let's take a look at what the grid splitter is saying. So there's, oh, that's interesting. So, oh, that's pretty nice. Okay, so there's supposed to be a content element in most of those controls, but there isn't any for some reason. So the element is actually required there. But now the code is not regenerated. So maybe, let's see. Oh, so it's doing it properly this time. Okay, so the generation here is not updated until you build. That's what that I was not expecting. I was not expecting at all. Okay, so that's a pretty good thing. I'm not using it that much lately because I'm still using the Uno source generators, which do update the files every time. But that file here is not updated until you build. So that makes that's a good gotcha to know about. Okay, so that's the first thing. So we got the control element. Thank you, Matthew, for showing this. And it's going to be the same thing for this one. We need the splitter element here. And the scroll viewer inside. Okay, so this time it should be building a bit better because all the elements are there. So yes, they are. Okay, so we have all the elements available and it's building properly. So after 16 seconds of build time, let's see what that does. Okay, so there's a split. It doesn't look pretty nice. Okay, so that's interesting. So that's not what I was expecting. Okay, so that's not good. So let's try to adjust that. Actually, we may be able to do something about that. So there's not much that needs to be changed, and may be able to do some hot reload there. I'm not sure if it's going to work with that specific control, but we can try. So we get the direction, background gray, the width. Maybe it's the width. I don't know. I don't know if the width is about. No, it's not that one. So we can remove the width completely. Nope. So the element there, we got the row definition. It's right here, based on alignment. Maybe I missed something in the documentation. So we got based on alignment there. Still got row definitions. No hit testing here. Based on there's the alignment, horizontal alignment stretch. That could be a good reason. Okay, we'll see. So that didn't do it. So we'll change the values there. So the font size is probably for the glyph in the middle. And that one is going to be the resize behavior. Nope, doesn't want to. Interesting. Formatting of the document is not doing anything else. So yeah, the designer in here is not particularly working well. Okay, so we got based on alignment there, and we got, well, actually, let's do just one, see if which one's impacting what. Okay. Let's just look at the first one. What we can do is also take a look at another application that we're having that has pretty much the same thing. Okay, so there's a, it looks like the splitter is completely at the back. That's completely in front. Oh, okay, so it's I can't do anything here, and the application is completely there, used there. So it's not what I was expecting. So let's see. So we got the grid here, and it's supposed to split this one with this one. So maybe row 1, row 0. The docs there are 3 rows and 3 columns. Maybe they're using it to do something and put the splitter in between. So we're supposed to be having one splitter here, so let's add that. Or maybe we shouldn't be setting anything with the rows, because there are some row definitions. So for the columns, we get the min width here and a column definition that doesn't do anything. Okay, so I probably have the community toolkit sample enabled here. So I'm probably going to take that one and we're going to test directly inside. So we're searching for the splitter, grid splitter here. Okay, so we got a few things here, and we got the XAML associated to that sample. Okay, so we can move the content here, and so we have, So this is the Monaco editor that I was talking about. Yeah, that's probably right. In here, okay, so column definitions, there are 3. So it's splitting here. So the column grid splitter is placed here. Oh, it has a translate transform for some reason. What does that one do? Okay, so it moves. Oh, okay, I see. It's it's kind of the width of the. Okay, so it's the width of the splitter itself, so it needs to be translated to be placed at the right location. Okay, so that's interesting. So it's kind of put on top of the grid. Okay. So let's say if I remove the splitter, the row splitter is placed here. It's kind of it's an additional element. Okay, so that's what I was missing. Okay, so it's not the splitter itself is showing content. Okay, so it's something that's supposed to be at the end so that it's placed properly there, and it's okay. It makes sense. Okay, so I thought it was something that was placed differently. Okay, so that makes more sense now. So the splitter is an element of the grid, and that's placed on top and placed exactly at the location of the row and column so that it moves. And the text blocks that's inside really is that element that's vertical, or if I put an X there, should it do? Yeah, it's a symbol, so it won't say anything, but you can see the splitter here. So it has to be the text block here with the Sego symbol here that's providing the right thing. So it's definitely not what I was expecting. So I thought I was doing something completely different. Okay, so let's revert that, because it's definitely not what's supposed to be done here. So let's go back to our elements that we had originally. And we're going to be putting back the splitter at the right location. Okay. So we still need the toolkit control here, and we just need to take the two splitters that are available there for the columns and row splitters here. So they're actually the splitters, and their content is the glyph that's in there. Okay. So let's move that to be here. So there are 2. So we need two splitters, and the first one is going to be placed. So in there it was. Oh, not the right one. So in there, the 2 splitters were placed. The first column here, and first row. And the span is 3. Okay, so it's splitting the 3. Okay, so that makes sense. So in our case, there's no row spanning, so that's not needed. So we just need one to be at the top. So it's column. It's a column 1 because it's the first, and row 1. It's pretty close to what the other one is having, except there's no, well, it probably should be working as is there without changing anything. So Matthew, do you remember what kind of other features that you had in your application? I remember that you had something to change the size. There was a way to change the background color, if I remember correctly, or something else. Okay, so there it's placed completely in the middle, not very useful. Color space, okay. Interesting. So with there, auto, do we need an additional one? So maybe that's why they added something in the sample with the position here. There's two rows, and min height, min width. Oh, you have not implemented. Okay. What would you use it for? Because because it's only for specifying the colors for ASCII colors, is it? Or for additional types of information that need to be placed in the code itself? Oop. Okay, so that makes sense. Okay, so it's for changing the specifications of the color. So so when you change the color view space, you change the full thing. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so it didn't do the trick for now. So we had the let's just try one to see what we have there. So we got the row splitter here, and it's on the first row. Gray alignment stretch. Let's see there what that one does, because it's placing itself at the middle of the second row, not at the intersection of the position. So it's probably something else that I haven't seen there. So it still needs a span. Otherwise it won't go. There was a span in the way I placed it for the. No, there's no span, but there should be actually. Okay, so there's no row span. There's no column span. So it needs to be 2, and same thing here. So it needs to be all the way to the other one. Still puzzled by the fact that it's moving to the middle. There's probably something else that's missing there. So there's the splitter here, that first splitter. There's still that translate transform that's placed every time. Probably should be adding that as well. There's a vertical alignment. So that may be that one. So it's placing itself in the middle. So maybe we need to set the vertical alignment. So let's do that. Yep, that's the vertical alignment. Okay, so it still does that. Oh, so okay, so it's placed across, so that's good. Still need the vertical alignment. Oh, okay, so I got 2 things. So I got the render transform and the splitter and the vertical alignment top that was missing. So it's stretching, and then the size is 11. Let's put it as big as the other one, and let's put it that way. I thought it would be easier to use, to be honest. It has a lot of knobs to make it work properly. Probably should be a grid splitted or something, a control that does that completely without any change. Okay, so it moves, but it doesn't change the location of the split. Okay, so there's probably something else that needs to be changed, probably because I've set the height to 200. So that probably is the reason. So we need to set a min height, most likely. And then afterwards, we can probably set that one as well. So probably, I don't know if I've set, no, okay, so there are 2, there's no column, there's no size for that one, so it probably should do the trick. Okay, so it's set to column span. That row span. I don't, this is row span. Row span. I don't think we need a row span there. It doesn't need to go through down to the second part. So column span would be that one. So that one makes it to go to completely cut over to the right. But that one for some reason is not allowing. So I said, so min height is at 100. Which, So what is set in the other application? Let's see. We got the row definition of height at 200. So that's the min. and max height. So there's row, column span. Oh, maybe it does need to have the column span set properly. Okay, so maybe that column span is supposed to be for the three ones. So no, it's actually the one that needs to be set. Maybe the first row is min height. Maybe it needs to be min height there. So there's a height, the specific height for the row here, but there's a min height, max height in the other one. So let's try to do that. Maybe it's because there's a star. And we're not setting anything at the second one. But it's actually set to 100, so you can probably set to 100 to see if that does the same thing. Obviously, the controller is manipulating the row height and row and column width to do all this. That's interesting. Okay, still not moving. Okay, so the splitter itself is moving, but it's not changing the position of the controls inside. There's probably something else that I'm not seeing there. Let's see if there's something else that needs to be set in that control. So row, column span, vertical alignment, top height is set. There's a transform that's available, so the transform should be working properly. So there's probably something else that needs to be set, but I don't see what that is. So it could be an issue coming from Uno, because it's supposed to. We've been testing that one, but maybe there's something that doesn't work with the vertical alignment, with the vertical position. Let's see if there's something on the side. So if we do the same thing, but for the column, so that would be something to debug. Yeah, I could probably copy the entire XAML to see what that does. Yeah, let's try that. We have to remove a few things, but that would do. Let's remove the class. Control is fine. No X bind. No X bind there. No samples there as well. No selected item. No Skia canvas. We're going to put something else in place. Oh, there's no selection. Interesting. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, that's there. Okay, so let's try first. So it picks up the changes, so that's good. I'm going to try with the row splitter first. So let's see the row splitter. Oop, there. Okay, so it works. So that's something that should be working as well in Uno, and it does not. So that's something that is interesting, that needs to be fixed. Okay, so it should be doing the right thing. Okay, so that's interesting. Or maybe actually maybe there's something else that we haven't seen. So maybe we can change that. But I know that there was something to be done with that control specifically. And let's see if we run that. Ah, see? That's interesting. Okay, so that's not a problem of the grid. It's actually a problem of Monaco specifically. So it works. It does work, but it's because of the control. So there was something about that in the application that was running with the playground that said if the control changes size, it needs to actually call the arrange so that it moves. It adjusts in its own sizes. So yes, there's some updates to call to make sure that we're actually doing this. Actually, let's go take a look at the playground code. There was something like that. Platform Uno. Sorry, it's not that one. It's actually in that one. So we're going to be Uno. Playground. And then in here we have shared folder with the samples, and then there's a playground in the middle. Playground here. And there was something set up to make sure that we're resizing properly. There you go. So that's that one. So that's, I thought it was not useful, but it actually is. So we need to put that in the code to make sure that we're resizing the control properly. It's probably something that should be inside of the Monaco control itself. Looks like a workaround. That's not supposed to be there. So if we do source.sizeChange and then we do execute JavaScript, let's go take a look at what that one does. So, oh, I changed the splitter for the other one, so it's not going to be the right one. Okay, so bill was canceled. Okay, so let's do that one here. Maybe I'm commenting that one. Okay, so that's in the meantime when it builds, we're going to take a look at the column splitter and see if it does the right thing. So it's not doing, definitely not doing the right thing, because it's supposed to be splitting in between, so we're not using it properly. So it may be related to the same thing. So the row definitions and column definitions that are not set properly. Yeah, it could be an HTML event, but you know, it's something that needs to be placed inside of the control itself. So, that's much better. Okay, so if we compile and we have some errors, do we have something? Does it show up properly? Yes, it does. Okay, so there's probably a bit of padding to add because we're having the splitter that hides a little bit the top of the window of that view. That's good. So still no. Okay, so the other one. So yeah, the JavaScript event needs to be placed inside of the control itself, or it could be, the thing is that we don't, the sizing of the controls from HTML is not something that HTML knows for itself, or not too much, but we know from the XAML layout system when the size of a control changes, so we can explicitly set or invoke that from the control. So we're doing it in the application, but it must not be in the application. It should be inside of the Monaco Editor itself, the Uno version of the Monaco Editor. So it still needs to be called, but it's not the right location. The app is not the right way to do it for sure. Okay, so we got the row definition here. Okay, so does it do anything? No. Oh, so that's not the right one. We need to look at that one. So in column definitions here, so it needs to be, oh, it's the horizontal alignment. And the horizontal alignment needs to be left. And it works. Okay. Very nice. Okay, so the only thing that was needed to be changed is the horizontal alignment that needed to be left. Okay, so let's change that. So we're placing the splitter itself on the left of the location where, on the cell on which it is located. So there's that, and there was a bit of padding that was needed to be added to the scroll viewer here. And let's for now just add a, so the height of the control itself was 16, so we can add just an 8. So it's going to be 8 on all sides, but that's going to do for now. Probably removing the one that's from the sides as well, so we can align from the sides. So just so you know, being able to use that that control, the Windows Community Toolkit sample app to test your code and see how it behaves in real conditions, even if the sample that you chose is not the same one. But it's pretty cool to be able to do that kind of things. Okay, so let's see. Yes, the splitter works. Okay, so does it work vertically as well? It does work vertically as well. So if I compile the sweep gradient, I should be having the gradient that changes properly. That is pretty cool. That is pretty cool. So yeah, so we're going to be able to see all this. And if there are errors that show up at the bottom, then we have the padding that was placed properly. So we have the control properly available there, and it shows the content the right way, and we have all that. So there's probably 1 pixel. I don't know if it shows on the stream. There's a 1 pixel here that's not supposed to be here. Probably a bit of alignment there that's not supposed to be there. I don't know if it's the splitter itself that does that or not, but that's pretty cool, the gradient there, because of it's becoming transparent. So that's it. That was an interesting stream. You know, we have the errors that are showing up as part of the pop-ups, and we can see which errors here are meant to be available there. So we can see a skate shader does not contain a definition for create because we have a space in the name of the function, which is not supposed to be there. And it appears in multiple locations, which is also very nice. And we've added splitters so that we can see, we can manipulate the application, have more real estate for seeing the errors or for seeing the code. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to make a pull request for that, and you can play with that at the address that I put at the beginning of the stream. So it's going to be available here at the end, and we'll try to see what we can do next for next week's stream. Probably try to figure things out with what we can do with Skia specifically, or add, let's say, you know, timers or things like that. I'm pretty sure Matthew may have some ideas about that one. Or maybe update to a newer version of C# and try to get that application updated properly. So we're going to find a few things. I'm probably thinking about timers so we can have animations there, or use the so you may have seen that one is using the SK SAML canvas, which is not hardware accelerated, but we can also use the one that's WebGL enhanced, so it goes a lot faster. So you can see here that when I'm moving, that's not the one that when I'm moving the splitter here, it takes a while to change. And the reason for that is that it's still using the pixel rendering, so software rasterizer. So if you use WebGL instead, it's going to go a lot faster. So that's it for today. I hope you had fun as much as I did, and so happy coding. And if you want to be aware of when I'm going online, just give me a follow if you're on Twitch, and see you next week. Bye.